learners, welcome to week 4, lecture number 17, Development of Language, Milestones in the Language Development of Child and Stages of Language Development. So it's very important and exciting lecture, as it's very important for human beings, we parents, when child speaks and what are the milestones in that language. It becomes very significant for us. So we will see the development of language, milestones in the language development of child, stages of language development, and there are certain references and web links for your further studies. Dear learners, in our previous lecture, we have learnt about meaning, nature, components and functions of language. We have seen language development as universal human achievement. It is interesting and intriguing how fast a child learns language and also acquires a diverse vocabulary at a very young age. It helps them in communicating their needs to others, conversing with others, and experiment with varying social roles. The child as if possesses a natural ability to organize language as per the form and meaning. But the context in which the language is introduced regarding objects, events, and feelings have an important role to play in language development. Between the age of 8 and 18 months, infants start using words to speak. Its usage and meaning varies from infant to infant. Now in this video, we will see how language develops since infancy or during initial weeks of life of the child. The development of language. All children in every culture master the complicated system of their native language, unless severe deprivation or physical problems interfere. This knowledge is remarkable. At the least, sounds, meanings, words, and sequence of words, volume, voice tone, inflection, and turn-taking rules must all be coordinated before a child can communicate effectively in conversations. Throughout the first weeks of life, infants have only one major means of verbal communication, that is crying. For every need or desire or whatever he wants to say, he is in pain, he or she always cry. Within few years, however, children progress rapidly to speaking whole sentences and acquire a vocabulary of hundreds or even thousands of words. The development of language is a very important milestone in the cognitive development of the child, because language allows children to think in words rather than just images, to ask questions, to communicate their needs and wants to others, and to form concepts. Let's see how language develops. Language development in infancy is influenced by the language the child hears, a style of speaking known as child-centered speech, the way we adults and older children talk to infants and very young children, with higher pitched, repetitious, sing-song speech patterns. Infants and toddlers attend more to this kind of speech, which creates a learning opportunity in the dialogue between caregiver and infant. Other researchers are looking at the infant's use of gestures and signs. Infants also seem to understand far more than they can produce, a phenomena known as receptive productive lag. They may be able to produce one or two words, but they understand much longer sentences from their parents and others. Achieving mature thought requires a mature use of language. The steps involved in acquiring language looks quite similar in children from a variety of cultures. It is likely that many factors, biological and experiential, play a role in language development. Culture plays a major role by determining what language tools are necessary in the life of the people. The important point is that children develop language as they develop other cognitive abilities. By actively trying to make sense of what they hear and by looking for patterns and making up rules to put together the jigsaw puzzle of language. One can view the course of language development as either continuous or discontinuous. Vocabulary development appears to be fairly smooth and a continuous process. In English speaking cultures, the infant's first legitimate English word usually appears around the time of the first birthday. By the age of 2, the vocabulary has usually expanded to about 50 words, and by age 3, it consists of 1000 words. By their 6th birthdays, most children can use between 8000 and 14,000 words, and this is all average. It can be plus minus 50 or 100. Language development looks more discontinuous or stage-like when we focus on syntax, the formation of grammatical rules for assembling words into sentences. Children achieve the milestones of language approximately at the same age, 1 or 2 months early or later. This is because there are large differences among children in their rate of development, and because children, like adults, do not always use their more advanced forms of language. Halliday showed that even before their first real English word, children can often communicate with their parents by using their own private expressions such as bee for bird or moosh for milk. More examples from Indian languages are mum for milk, hummy for milk. Language development, there are certain milestones during early years. Children develop language skills at an amazing pace. 12 weeks baby smiles when talked to, makes cooing sounds. 16 weeks they turn head in response to human voice. 20 weeks makes vowels and consonant sounds while cooing. Ah, ba, ba, ah. 6 months progressing from cooing to babbling that contains all sounds of human speech. And a 8 months baby repeats certain syllables, example ma, ma or ba, ba. 12 months understands some words and may say a few. 1.5 years, 18 months baby can produce up to 50 words. 24 months has vocabulary of more than 50 words. Again, it depends on the exposure of language he has been provided. Uses some 2-word phrases. 30 months child has vocabulary of several hundred words. Uses phrases of 3 to 5 words. 36 months child has vocabulary of about 1,000 words, and 48 months has mastered most basic elements of language, almost sentences, and that too meaningful. Now we will see and explain in details what are the stages of language development. Would you like to know how child develops language? Is it by their own, or something is inside in their brain, or it's because of the environment? We will discuss those theories also in details. Now we will see what are the stages, how they develop language. They use sentences first, or the words, or the phonemes. So it is a puzzle, it's now being solved. So questions such as, do they follow a particular pattern or stages? Does age play a role in it? Is there a critical period for learning language? Are very crucial and the ones which researchers are trying to study. There are several stages of language development that all children experience, no matter what culture they live in or what language they will learn to speak. Brown in 1973 identified the following stages: cooing, babbling, one-word speech, hollow phrases, telegraphic speech, and whole sentence, we say syntax. Let's understand development of language from infancy to adolescence. So, infancy. Language learning begins even before birth. Within the first few days only, they show a preference for the language their mother speaks, and if they have heard more than one language regularly, they show their preference for both the languages. Infants try to communicate in various ways even before they are able to utter a proper or meaningful word. Some of these ways are as follows. Crying. Babies cry at birth. Initially, it is a reflexive behavior, but soon it becomes a way to communicate distress. Soon they learn that it is a signal that brings relief from whatever is bothering them. As the adults try to make it stop and meet the infant's demand as they want them to stop now, don't cry. So the process of communication begins when babies learn that crying can act as a signal that brings relief from hunger, discomfort, and loneliness, because it motivates adults to do what it takes to make it stop. Interestingly, babies' cry just communicate the intensity and severity of pain or discomfort they are experiencing. Thus, the parents figure out on the basis of their experience why the baby is crying and what it wants, whether they want to be fed or nap or relief from the pain. And in infancy, the stage is cooing, and this is the first stage in the development of language. Between the ages of 2 and 4 months, babies start making pleasant sounds similar to soft vowel sounds. This has been termed as cooing. By then, they also start laughing, and some are also seen taking turns in their pre-language conversation with their parents. They listen when you talk to kids, infants, they listen to your words first and then they start theirs. And there is no meaning in it, still it communicates a lot. The baby coos, the parent talks back, the baby looks and laughs, the parent smiles and talks. In this way, babies begin to learn how to use language even before they can speak. The next stage is babbling. By the age of 4 to 6 months, babies start making one-syllable sounds such as ba, da, ma, etc. Gradually, they start combining these sounds repetitively, such as ba, 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 ma, ma, ga, ga. These initial vocalizations are not very meaningful or intentional. but babies start attaching meaning to it because of the response their parents give them. If by chance I hear ma, 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 then I will say, oh, please again you repeat this ma, ma, ma. I will be very happy when my kid using this ma, ma, ma or pa, pa, pa. For instance, mama, ma is understood as mommy, thus making the mother happy and further encouraging the child to repeat it. An interesting finding suggested that in almost all the different languages across the world, the words for mother and father start with one of the earliest sounds the babies make, such as Abba, Aramaic Hebrew, Baba, Persian and Mandarin, etc. In case of deaf children born to deaf parents who use sign language, the infants babble with their fingers and hands at the same age. The hearing infants babble vocally. According to researchers, infants till the age of 6 months can distinguish various sounds made and used in different languages, but they lost this ability by 10 months, perhaps because they do not get the opportunity to hear all kinds of sounds in their native language, which they hear often. For example, Hindi language has two distinct phonemes that sound like da. To English speakers, for example, the sound of da is different in the two Hindi words dadaji, grandfather, and dali, stalk of a flower or leaf. It seems that an aspect of learning language depends upon identifying and recognizing specific sounds used in that language. Kull and colleagues concluded that infants who are good at discriminating sounds in their native language by the age of 7 months demonstrate better language development by the age of 2 years, whereas infants with better ability to discriminate sounds in non-native language at 7 months may have a delayed language development in comparison. Now, after having done cooing, babbling, it is the third stage, first words or one-word utterances or hollow phrases. Utterance of the first word of an infant is a major milestone of their life. We parents wait for that first utterance. It has been well documented that infant can understand words much before they can speak them. One of the major examples of it is the fact that they can recognize their name being called, sometimes even as early as 5 months of age. But their first word usually does not occur before 10 to 15 months of age. The appearance of first word is a continuation of the communication process, thus is followed by gestures, babbling, cooing, etc. From understanding to speaking. The first proper word of the baby could be that of an important person, Dada, Baba, the caretakers, the family members who are attending to the baby, some familiar animal, doggy, toys, food related item, milk, some body part, eye, words that are used daily like buy, wash, etc. Interestingly, one word that the child uses has various intentions and the parent or caregiver tries to make sense of it in the context. For example, the word milk may mean I want milk, or this is milk, or give her or him milk. Vocabulary spurt. An 18-month-old has a vocabulary of 50 words on an average, which increases to almost 200 words by the age of 2 years. This increase is called as vocabulary spurt, like growth spurt. The spurt may vary from child to child and also depends on their first word utterance. So these are certain examples. We will discuss these examples. For example, of one word utterances of a child are, there are few examples. Ala for chilla. This is as a sounding, pronouncing a is more easier than ch. So ala for chilla. This is when asked Vinu, kya khayega? Is it suji chilla, which he would like to eat? What you want to eat? A mother saying to the child. Ticken to chicken. Office to mother's office. Vinu, papa kahan gaye hain? Response is office, where your father has gone. Department to mother's department in university. So these are certain examples of a baby who lives in Bengal and basically mother tongue is Hindi. Two word utterances or telegraphic speech. Between the age of 18 to 24 months, babies also start using two words to convey their messages or converse with others. With their two words, they also rely on gestures, tone, and the context to communicate their message. These two words usually are devoid of other parts of speech and are very brief but useful in conveying the message. For instance, daddy come, baby sleep, where car, more milk, my cookie, and many more such utterances. This sort of speech is called as telegraphic speech. It is called so because of its usage of short and precise words without any grammatical markers. Although it is important to note that telegraphic speech in itself is not just limited to two words. Thus, Rahul going school, mom give doggy food are also examples of telegraphic speech. For some children, a particular word becomes central and then they may use it with other words to convey certain meanings. For instance, all gone. The child may use it as all gone cookies or all gone nanny. So there may be variations in the language input receiving by the infant, but all of them follow a similar path in learning to speak. Here, I would like to give examples of telegraphic speech of a child who lives in West Bengal. His parents speak Hindi at home. His caretaker is Bengali, with whom he lives whole day during parents' office hours. Mummy, Tumi, Papa, phone, Ami, Bhim means mummy, you call Papa and say, I am watching Chota Bhim. So those who attend to the baby, like whoever giving more time to the baby, can understand these telegraphic speech much faster, easier than the others. Pattu dodi a, TV na pattu dodi a means mummy TV में मोटू पतलू की जोड़ी है लगा दीजिए, and also using gestures also indicating towards the TV, coming from the bedroom to the living hall and indicating to the means gestures, they help in total communication. In English, mummy, I want to watch Motu Patlu ki jodi in TV. Let's put the TV on. Now, early childhood. Young children become much more skilled in understanding and producing vocabulary and grammar. By 3 years of age, most of the children start using sentences with more than 2 or 3 words. They also start producing all vowel sounds and some consonant sounds. By this age, they start paying attention to rhymes, poems, and making up names for things. As soon as they move beyond two word utterances, they begin to add morphemes as well. They start using plural forms, adding s to dog to make it dogs, past tense by adding ed at the end of the word, prepositions such as in and on, and articles like a and the. Overgeneralization of these rules is perhaps the best evidence signifying the changes occurring in young children. For instance, they may say, I goed to the store, instead of saying, I went to the store. Putting ed after every verb, they intelligently think that it means the past tense. So, I went to the store. Instead of saying this, they say, I goed to the store. Interestingly, they may end up using both correct and incorrect version in the same sentence itself. I go to the store and then went to play. Preschoolers also start applying rules of syntax. For instance, they use WH questions. What is mommy doing? While asking such a question, it is important for them to understand the difference between a question and an affirmative sentence. That is, a WH word must be added at the beginning to make a question sentence, and the rule that the auxiliary verb is inverted. Children take more time to learn this rule. Thus, a lot of times they may end up saying what mommy is doing instead of what is mommy doing. As we have discussed in earlier box, vocabulary development can be very fast and dramatic during early childhood, especially between 18 months and 6 years. Changes in pragmatics are also quite evident as young children start engaging in extended discourse. A 6-year-old turns out to be a better conversationalist than a 2 or 3-year-old. By this age, they start learning culture-specific rules of greeting and start adapting their speech according to their context. With growing age, a preschool child also starts talking about things they may have seen earlier or they wish to do later, that is in future. Their ability to talk about past or future, it grows. For instance, what happened at grandma's place yesterday, or where would they want to go tomorrow. By the age of 4 or 5 years, we can find children changing their speech style and talking differently to a 2-year-old than someone who is their peer. They are seen using short sentences with them, but when talking to an adult, they are seen using formal language. Despite increasing language development, preschoolers may show certain limitations. For instance, a child may say, I went to that place yesterday and played with the round and round. The child may fail to realize that the listener might not have an idea of that place they are talking about or what is round and round. This inability to take the role or perspective of others in their conversation has been termed as egocentric speech, and we will discuss this egocentric speech in details in Piaget's cognitive development later in the week 8 or 9. With time and experience, children learn to be social, their perspective taking ability develops, and with this, their language also becomes socialized, making communication more effective. Vygotsky, on the other hand, had a slightly different idea. He believed that children never have a pre-social speech, and at some point their speech gets divided into two: speech directed at other people and at oneself. That oneself is known as private speech. Younger children are often found talking aloud to themselves. You must have heard this. They are talking to themselves only, and that too a bit loudly. For instance, I will take blue crayon to color this picture. Children slightly older may whisper or mutter to themselves while engaged in a task. Some may not even mutter, but their mouth may move silently, again indicating of their silent speech. According to Vygotsky, this becomes internalized with age, eventually gets reduced to a silent speech, and finally remains as a thought, as we adults do. It has been found that private speech may not necessarily end with early or middle childhood. When 17-year-olds were given a difficult task, almost one-third of them were found talking either openly or like a whisper to themselves. Now, the language development during middle and late childhood. As children start going to school, they refine and expand their vocabulary, grammar, start reading and writing and advancing these skills further. In addition to this, they also start learning discourse skills, understanding whether presented information makes logical sense or not. For example, in the sequence, on her way she lost her purse. When she got to the store, she took out her purse and bought her favorite candy. Language and Reading Research Consortium. By this age, they also start making inferences from the information they hear. Thus, they are able to relate and make connections between sentences to produce descriptions and narratives that make sense. It is important to note here that children must be able to do these things orally before they are expected to encounter such situations while doing their homework or writing assignments. Another ability that is developed at this age is the understanding that words might not be the same as what they stand for. For instance, they may say that they like a particular word because of how it sounds, even though they may not like that particular toy. This is important to further develop meta-linguistic abilities. How and why they are using that particular language, why they are liking that language or that word, wherein children start thinking about language and its usage. It is like appreciating words as words. Further, it also helps them in understanding humor, because at times humor requires sophisticated understanding of language. During middle and late childhood, children develop the ability to go beyond the literal meaning of a word. Therefore, using metaphors, for instance, time is money. So a child of 2 years, 3 years may ask how time is money, how it can happen, it is not possible. By the time children enter adolescence, most of them know the culturally appropriate ways, pragmatics or rules for everyday language usage. So they know the appropriate things to say and inappropriate things to avoid. Now we will see language development during adolescence. Adolescents start sounding more like adults. Their sentences are longer than earlier, and the grammar usage also becomes more sophisticated. Due to better abstract thinking abilities, they become much better than children at analyzing the function of a word in a sentence or the context given. With an increase in abstract thinking, adolescents are much better than children at analyzing the function of a word performs in a sentence or in a context. They are often seen using slang, especially when talking to peers. For example, that's lit. The word lit refers to amazing or exciting. It has been found the swearing or using profanities also reaches a peak in adolescence and is usually done to fit in a group, bond with others, or simply for fun. They may develop shortcuts such as FOMO, meaning fear of missing out. Interestingly, adolescent slang sometimes also become a part of the wider society as adults catch up with it and use it. Adolescents' ability to understand metaphors and satire is much more than children. Due to their advanced logical thinking abilities, from about 15 to 20 years of age, they can also understand complex literary work and classics. They can engage in sophisticated and critical discussion with others, especially due to their ability to take and understand other person's perspective. They are also better writers than children as they can organize their ideas better, like introduction, body, and conclusion, can delve into layering while writing. For instance, going from general to specific and stringing their sentences together in a better way. We can conclude this lecture after understanding all the developmental milestones in the development of language of a child. We can conclude that children all over the world learn language in a sequence, and this sequence remains the same. It starts with crying, then phonemes, morphemes, we say cooing, babbling, hollow phrases, that is one word utterance, telegraphic speech just to communicate their desire and want, and syntax. Here role of parents, caretakers, and teachers is crucial. Proper intervention can foster the language development. You can use these references for your further detailed studies. These are web links. Thank you and happy learning.